All right, good morning, Lisa. Go for it.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for having me again. I love catching up with the Guild. And so today I want to talk about a topic that's pretty near and dear to my heart that I've always been passionate about is leadership and management skills for women. So in my 30 something something, and I won't tell you how many exactly, years in human resources, I've trained and coached professional women and emerging female leaders. And I've been personally having a bird's eye view to witness and experience some of the challenges that many of them face that block them from being heard, appreciated, respected, and valued. So today I want to share with you some tools that will enhance your leadership skills as a woman. So just a little bit about the agenda. We will talk about gaining respect through words, actions, and judicious use of power. How women undermine themselves with words, and shattering the old cliche of the aggressive woman. See how you can become the type of leader who inspires loyalty, deep commitment, and exceptional achievement. A little bit about me for anybody who doesn't know me at this point, which is probably hard to believe since I've been hanging around. You guys can't get rid of me at this point. But I am an HR strategist, so human capital strategist, corporate board advisor, public speaker, author, and media contributor. I have a undergrad and a master's degree in human resources. And you heard me say I've been in the HR game for more than 30 years. So I purposely have had my career working for all kinds of organizations on the Fortune list, as well as privately held companies. I have a HR consulting practice called Strategic Performance of Los Angeles. So while I'm out as a media contributor, you might have seen me some of these places: Money Magazine, Career Builder, Fast Company, Reader's Digest, Yes, Clutch, and on and on and on. So enough about me. You also heard maybe the last time that I presented that I have a book that I released last year called Job Hunting Now What? Keeping It Real in a Modern Career Search. So again, my love for always sharing information with people that I think is relevant and on topics that I think are most important to you. So first off, let's talk about respect. Respect and leadership goes hand in hand. It's a fundamental principle to lead others. You first have to earn their respect, but it goes much deeper. Great leadership creates a climate of respect, an environment that sets high standards and supports everyone in doing their best. Unfortunately, there are no shortcuts to respect. It has to be earned and maintained and nurtured. But there are things that you can do to make sure you're on track during the process. And here are some of the most important. There are 6 ways to gain respect. The first being set an example. Respect is circular. To earn it, you have to give it. The respect you show to others not only models how you like them to treat you and each other, but also reflects your own self-respect. The principle of respect should guide your actions every day. Leave your ego behind. Ego is a social mask that we wear when we have to play a role. It thrives on approval, control, and power because it's grounded in fear. Let go of worrying about how you're perceived and whether you're getting the credit that you deserve, but better focus on your mission and the team that you support. Have consistency of character. When you're consistent, when people know what to expect from you, they will be equally consistent in their respect for you and your leadership. Stay accountable and responsible and keep your words and actions aligned. Consistency is a commitment, but it's a lot easier and more effective than faking it. Simplify the complicated. When you make things more complicated than they have to be, you sacrifice transparency and lose respect. When an issue is genuinely complex, pare it back to be as simple as possible or break it up into genuinely just smaller pieces. And when something is already simple, don't allow it to unnecessarily grow into something more complex. Simplicity makes it much easier to be transparent, and transparency engenders trust and respect. Be trustworthy. Trustworthiness has two components: doing the right things and doing things right. It's the foundation of respect, central to any effective leader. Tell the truth, be open and thoughtful, and have the courage to do the right thing, even when it's not easy. Build respect into your communication. When you speak, the tone you use and the way you express yourself are almost as important as the words you say. Every element of your communication matters, whether it's spoken, written, public, or private, but especially mindful of your tone. Is it positive or respectful? Communicate with the utmost respect, and you'll find others doing the same for you. Remember, gaining respect isn't something that you can check off a list. It's something that you have to practice daily. But working to keep yourself in line and giving and gaining respect is one of the most important things you can do in leadership. How women undermine themselves with words. So I love talking about this topic because it brings about so many aha moments when I speak to women. So many have no idea that they do all sorts of self-sabotaging things in speech and in writing. It's pretty amazing to suddenly see your unconscious habits and then be able to let go of some of them. And here are some of the little things women do in speech and writing that aren't really little as we seem to think. In fact, they have huge impact in causing us to come across as less competent and confident. So let's talk about a few. When you say in conversation, I just want to check in and see, or I just think, the word just tends to make us sound a little apologetic and defensive about what we're saying. I actually disagree, or I actually have a question. The word actually makes us sound surprised that we disagree or have a question. Starting off the sentence with, I'm sorry, but apologize, and really when there's nothing to apologize for, will portray that you lack self-confidence. And as I understand, you sound unsure, but you have to be firm in the stance in what you say. And one of the others that I probably should add to this slide is that I hear often is women to say, can I speak, before stating a point or entering into a conversation. You don't have to ask permission to be present in the conversation. Just trust that you have something of value to add and just speak on that. So be firm at your stance. When you keep your communication intact, you elevate your image. When no one is 100% always sure of anything, It is, though, beneficial to lead with clarity and confidence. Leadership power. Powerful leaders are usually extremely persuasive and can easily influence others to buy into their purpose. In general, power is connected to credibility and influence. When you're influencing people, you're capturing their hearts and you're moving them towards the greater goal. But not everyone knows what to do with power once they have it. Be a better leader by understanding these 7 powers used to persuade and influence others. So the 7 powers leaders can use for good or evil. Legitimate power. This power happens when someone is in a higher position, giving them control over others. If you have this power, it's essential that you understand that the power was given to you and can be taken away. So don't abuse it. Coercive power. There is not a time and day when you should really use coercive power. Ultimately, you can't build credibility with coercive power. You can think of it like bullying in the workplace. No matter how good of a leader you are, if you're wielding coercive power, you are leading with fear. And this won't gain you respect and loyalty from employees in the long run. Expert power. This power comes directly from top-level skills and years of experience. Once you hold this knowledge, your peers will regard you as an expert. The great thing about expert power is that no one can take it away from you. It's knowledge that you hold, that you possess, that you've earned. However, in order to remain an expert and to keep your status and influence, you need to continue learning and improving. Informational power. This is a short-term power that doesn't necessarily influence or build credibility. But it's hard for a person to keep this power for long, and eventually this power will be released. This should not be a long-term strategy. Power of reward. When you start talking financial livelihood, power takes on a whole new meaning. This power is held by those who can motivate people to respond in order to win raises, promotions, and awards. Connection power. This power creates influence by proxy and is all about networking. You can attain this power by gaining favor and being a source of information for the people you connect with. And people employing this power build important coalitions with others. Reverent power. This is the most important and real power that leaders should adopt because it's all about the quality of the leadership developed with others and how those relationships are built. This power depends on personal traits and values such as honesty, integrity, and trustworthiness. People with high reverent power can highly influence anyone who admires and respects them. In short, when people perceive you in a power position, they are relying on you, and there's a lot in you that you can achieve through influence. So, since we've talked about the 7 different types of power, which one describes the leader that you want to be? Aggressive versus assertive. Well, we as women hear this probably more times than we care to in our careers. People see us as aggressive versus assertive. And in some ways, it's okay for men to be aggressive, but we can't because then we become labeled in a negative connotation. So I want to talk about the difference between the two. They're totally different in your approach. Often women have been misunderstood in their approach, and it can be difficult to differentiate between the two. There are distinguishing factors, though, including their subsequent outcomes that we have to pay attention to. So let's take a look. So, what is aggressive behavior? It implies that there is a winner and a loser dependent on that behavior. It's a dynamic where the sole outcome and interest in the person being aggressive is to gain an advantage, and its worst aggressiveness has the intent to hurt or dominate another person. Assertive. Being assertive is pursuing what you want while respecting those people and circumstances around you and your actions. Being assertive means that you recognize yourself as same as others, not better than and not less than. When you are assertive, you are not putting yourself out, nor are you putting anyone else out. So for a second, I want to talk about, have you ever been told that that you need to be more assertive or aggressive, and you come away from the conversation thinking, what does that mean? How do you know if in your attempt to be more assertive, you won't come across as negative or too aggressive? So, how can you know that the difference between being assertive and being aggressive? And how can you be more assertive and not worry that you're being too pushy or rude? So, why is there so much confusion around this topic of being assertive versus aggressive? Because women are taught not to offend other people, even at the sake of our own needs. Women were shamed into feeling selfish and rude when we ask for what we want. Women learned that people will only like us when we don't hurt their feelings. Women are taught that it was crucial that other people and family members shouldn't be bothered with what we want. Women play the peacekeeper or the fixer role in our families and where other people's wants and needs are more important than our own. So then how do you be assertive? So we tell you what not to be, which is aggressive, but how do you be assertive? So you ask for what you want. Don't assume people know what you want, right? No one's a mind reader because obviously people will be off base if we leave it to their own assumptions. Hold people accountable for their actions. Establish clear boundaries in relationships. So that's a biggie. Communicate your intentions clearly and with respect. Focus on your intent being from a place of consideration for yourself and others. Allow yourself to receive what you're asking for. See yourself as important and trust yourself. Effective leadership. So, in a minute, we're going to talk about the 7 keys to effective leadership. But for some women, managing people doesn't come natural. The good news, though, is that you can make this task a little bit easier for yourself by remembering the 7 keys that are essential to effective leadership. And your business will benefit as you direct, as a direct, will benefit as a direct result. There we go. So the 7 keys to effective leadership: delegate wisely. The key to leadership success is to learn to effectively delegate both the responsibility for completing assignments and the authority required to get things done. Many bosses feel the need to control every little thing that an employee does. This is a recipe for disaster. When you delegate work to employees, you multiply the amount of work that you can accomplish while you develop your employees' confidence, leadership, and work skills. Set goals. Every employee needs goals to strive for. Not only do goals give employees direction and focus, but they ensure that your employees are working towards the overall organizational goals. Set specific and measurable goals with your employees, then regularly monitor their progress towards achieving them. So you might remember the last time we spoke and we were talking about effective organization skills. And one of the things I talk about is setting times for check-ins with employees or setting the time with them for them to check in with you. So you monitor their progress. Communicate. Far too many bosses communicate far too little, which leaves room for misunderstanding and high tension. When situations arise, take a step back to assess where the breakdown occurred. Be willing to own your part in the breakdown. You must make every effort to get employees the information they need to do their jobs quickly and efficiently. In this area, what I often see is that we are in a hurry and we make the assumption that an employee should understand what we're saying. However, if we're communicating quickly in a hasty kind of fashion, maybe this person is not as familiar with your leadership style, and so you haven't had that time to build a rapport and trust, that there's a lot that can get lost and misunderstood. So taking the time to clearly communicate and even asking if they have questions and taking a moment to make eye contact with them to really clearly understand and listen to what they're conveying. Make time for employees. Above all, leadership is a people job. When an employee needs to talk with you, whatever the reason, make sure that you set aside time to do so. Put your work aside for a moment, put down your phone, and focus on the person standing in front of you. Recognize achievement. Every employee wants to do a good job. And when they do a good job, employees want recognition from their boss. Unfortunately, though, few bosses do much in the way of recognizing and rewarding employees for a job well done. But however, a very simple thank you can go a long way. I often, with my teams, would bring in something for them to eat, leave a little special something that I know that they like on their desk to say, thanks so much for what you did. I will write a handwritten note and leave it on a desk. You just never know how much that can mean to someone, and it will go a long way in getting them to continue to work to their best and fullest potential for you. Think about lasting solutions. No matter how difficult the problem, there's always a quick solution. And leaders are happiest when they're devising solutions to solve problems. The trouble is that in our zealousness to fix the problem quickly and move on to the next fire, we often overlook the root cause of the issue. Could it be untimely communication or broken processes? We don't know, right? Because we haven't taken the time, though, to establishing the core and finding a lasting solution to the problem. Don't take it all too seriously. Without a doubt, running a business is serious business. Products and services must be sold and delivered, and money must be made. Despite the gravity of these responsibilities, though, successful leaders make their organizations fun places to work. And instead of having employees who look for every possible reason to call in sick or to arrive at work late or go home early. So, as you all know, I love to get the burning questions answered. While I could be chatty Cathy for another half an hour, I want to leave some time for us to come away with some questions answered. So this is the time that I say take yourself off of mute. And as you know, no question is off limits. So how can I help?
Hey, Lisa, I always have questions.
I love it, Zelda.
Yeah.
What you got?
So I value all your lectures, and one thing that it's doing for me, it's reinforcing the things that I'm doing right, and helping me with some of the things that I want to, do better. And what I'm recognizing as I feel like I'm a really good boss. So I'm generally a supervisor at work. So my question though is, doing all of these things sometimes, well, I guess the question is, how do you balance friendship and employer relationships? So, during the course of, working together, we all become friends, and it's great. But when is being friends with the people you work with not, and just how do you balance it?
Oh, wow. Yeah. So you heard me say on an earlier slide about kind of setting boundaries. So, we struggle often in this area is because we spend a lot of time with these people, right? And we can't help but to have a vested interest in them and grow in our care and concern for them personally. And I think it's important, though, that we set the boundaries between what's the friendship and what's the working relationship. So I'll use me as an example. In my role, in my professional career, I'm always like the HR executive leader, and my friends are people who are at the C-suite level too. However, these are also people that I support in their business and in some way can have influence over their careers. And we still will go out to dinner together. Our families might know each other. We might see each other often outside of work. What I do, though, is in the beginning of that relationship, I'm clear with them about the boundaries and we come into an agreement. Seriously, I have a conversation, and the conversation sounds a little bit like, I value our working and now what seems to be moving towards also a professional relationship. But in order for it to work for the both of us, I think it's important that we set some boundaries. When we are in our professional relationship, it looks like X. When we're in our personal relationship, what I can expect is that it looks like this. And how we continue to be able to navigate them both is that we don't necessarily blend the two at the same time. So I'm friends, I've had relationships with my boss at work, who is also my girlfriend, and we will leave work from being at work all day together and go and sit down and have a drink. And we'll talk about our children, or we'll bring our spouses. And so now our husbands are friends. But when we're at work, we are professional women. When we're at these social events as families, we're girlfriends. And so we make sure that we understand where the boundaries are.
Great. Oh, thank you. And then finally, one other question. How do you feel about social media and not necessarily, some crew members are not necessarily personal friends, but, we kind of, I know I'm a little bit on the fence about, social media and becoming Facebook friends with people that I don't necessarily know super well, and they're my employees at work.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good question.
That's one I would warn you against, because again, if you've not established those kind of boundaries, right, that I just laid out, like the difference between the personal and the professional, if you don't have that relationship, and at this point it sounds like, Zelda, you're saying that this is strictly though a professional relationship, then I feel like, you shouldn't have privy into my personal life.
Okay.
So I personally don't blend the two. If you're not somebody that is a personal friend and we have that understanding, but it is strictly a professional relationship, you do not get privilege in to see into my personal life.
Great, thank you.
What else?
Lisa, could we talk a little bit? Hi, I'm Anne.
Anne, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Good. Can we talk a little bit more about the boundaries? Because that's something that's really tricky for me. We work such long hours together, and we work in such, intense environments, and the personal often overlaps into the professional. And it's not even people's fault, but you'll be for example, I've been in a fitting before and had my assistant get a phone call about their child in school, and you can see that it's an emergency. You can see that something happened. So in that instance, you obviously they're excused to leave the fitting, but it often, even after the fitting, to talk about it, how do you have the boundaries of keeping the day moving forward, but still being concerned about the person? That's something that I often struggle with, how to get the balance, because, my knee-jerk reaction should be, I should want to keep the day going, but of course I want to know how this person's doing.
Sure.
And the friendship, the personal and the professional, I find in this business just intermesh so tightly.
Sure, absolutely. I get it. Because again, it's all about, we have the heart for people. We have the heart for what they might be going through. And, it's important though for us to, again, keep those kinds of boundaries. So, it's all about the way you possibly phrase the question of wanting to know, or letting them know that you're, empathetic to whatever they're going through, or just saying, I hope everything's okay. So it might be, instead of saying, how's everything going, to saying, I hope all is well with you. Because the moment you open it up with the question, how's everything going, then this gives the person the impression that now I want more information. And now this opens it up again, right, for further conversation going down the road. So should something else happen, or they just now need somebody to talk to, that they will think that they can leverage that relationship for their personal benefit, right? Needing someone to talk to. And so it's probably best that you phrase it in a way and say, I just want to let you know that, I hope everything is well with you and your situation from yesterday. And leave it at that. The moment you open it up for a conversation with a question, it's like Pandora's box, because they will feel inclined to share more of the information with you about their personal lives than you might need to be privy to.
Mm-hmm.
They might continue down the path from that day forward with anytime something's going on in their lives, they think about and ask one time, how was I doing? So then that now means and could be a sounding board for my problems.
Yeah, definitely. No, because it's not that, yeah, that's really useful, because it's not that I don't care and that I don't want to know, but just sometimes within our work day, I don't have the bandwidth to know and to be that involved.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And when the behavior pops up, right, you kind of have to redirect it, because it might happen.
No, and I've definitely had that before. And luckily, when we've had to have those conversations, it goes well, but it'd be nice to know how to prevent them from happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I always try to make sure that leaders understand, though, we want to be empathetic. And you heard me say that sometimes too much information opens up Pandora's box. So then I go into my HR legal mind, right? So now I'm thinking, so should something ever happen where this relationship goes sour, could this person come back and use what they might have shared with me in a personal context against me professionally? Right? So maybe I told you, maybe that person told you, about the challenges that they might have been having at home. Maybe the child is sick or has some kind of health issue. And, I tell you all about my personal life, but then one day I call you and I say, hey, I can't come to work for several more days because of my sick child. Well, my child is sick, right? So now it's like, okay, how do you manage this now? Because she's told you in a personal context about her sick child, which is a issue, right, for you professionally, and it has to be managed in that way. So you got to be careful about how you invite yourself into some of those conversations.
Thank you. That was really useful.
I saw somebody's hand went up.
Francine, you can talk. You just have to unmute yourself.
Oh, okay.
There we go. Hi,
All right, are we
Francine.
good? Okay. So thank you so much for this information. And what I see is, if I would look at my power, I think I have a expert power, means I switch between costume design and manufacturing specialty fabric or other things. And this is my question, because I love technology and new techniques, like in science fiction, and developing new techniques. And I'm sometimes, I've been regarded as an expert and sometimes a master, but it becomes more complicated. And now I go into techniques that I don't even know exactly really well. So when is the question is always like, how long does it take? How much does it cost? And all this. And I'm like, I don't know. And really, I feel like it's well understood, because we all are part of this development process. So, but my question is this: with the COVID, I feel even more like overwhelmed or questioned, because I'm pretty good in sorting out things and finding a solution and make it work. But now I can see that the Mac store is closed. I have things to fix on my computer. My printer is broken, and everything takes so much more time. And I really see, like, I'm excited to go back to work and, you know, be on a project and be with my colleague and friends again. And I'm like, wow, but how is it going to be? You see? So that's my question here.
So I think,
How can I feel confident in what will happen? What's next, you know?
yeah, you know, I wish I had a magic wand, Francine. I really, really do, because we are all in this thing together. And I think what I hear is, you know, somebody like you who has been and is seen as an expert feels like they have to have it all together all the time. But we are in a pandemic where we don't have control over much these days, and you have to give yourself a pass. Take the time to work through things, and if it takes longer, gosh, it takes longer, right? Because businesses are scaled down to almost virtually, you know, being inoperable in some cases, which are probably your sources of resource, right?
Mm-hmm.
You just have to give yourself a pass and be okay with the fact that you're not in control.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Yes, I have to just be gentle with myself. Yes?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Do not beat yourself up about it. Trust me. Nobody, and I think the thing is, we worry about our reputation as that expert.
Yes, exactly. And I feel like suddenly I'm a dummy, you know, and I'm like, well, but yes, and I like what you said, you know, don't take it too seriously, actually, because it is so serious and so, yeah, it's a big game, but we have to take in consideration what the future is holding, you know?
Sure. And I think any reasonable person right now should recognize that things are moving at a snail's pace,
Mm.
and you're not in control of what is happening. You're trying to navigate despite of it. So that still, as far as I'm concerned, deserves a pass, right? Because there's some cases where business has just collapsed and just, you know, not moving at all, but you're still working and you're still trying to move forward with the things that are in your control. But just know it's okay.
Can I add something to that?
Absolutely.
Hi, I'm Karen.
Hi, Karen.
Hi. So I'm in the union. I'm in the costume designers union, but I'm currently working full time and working from home. I manage a team of about six people, and it has been challenging, especially because some of the vendors I work with are basically have the attitude of business as usual. But in my experience, business has not been normal whatsoever. And I just had to be very clear and firm about that. Right now, I have things that are being developed that are taking approximately like 2 weeks longer than normal. So if it's something that takes 4 weeks, it's an additional 2 weeks, 6 weeks.
Sure.
And I just had to be like really firm about it because everybody wants everything turned around immediately. And some vendors are very understanding and others haven't been. So I just think being really firm about it has been very helpful, and just giving myself that extra time as well. Because yes, my computer's a lot slower working from home. My printer's also having issues right now. So it's really been something. And honestly, I mean, I was going to ask too, managing my team and just being, I'm starting to get really unmotivated. I'm kind of at the point where I'm feeling a little over it, so to speak.
Right, right.
And in addition to that, one of my team members, her father died of COVID last Thursday,
Oh
actually,
gosh.
which was really shocking because he was in the hospital for a month and a half. And I've just kind of been keeping tabs, but she seemed to be doing really well. And I thought he was doing well also. And she definitely is a workhorse. And I think was using that almost as a distraction. Turns out, you know, it did not end well. So now I feel like this kind of thing has happened and I'm feeling unmotivated. I'm not sure how to keep them motivated at this point.
Yeah. So I've had many, many conversations since this all hit us early March with leaders who are trying to figure out how to keep their remote teams motivated.
Okay.
And even so, holding themselves accountable, right, to being motivated from home as well. So you are not alone, is my point of saying this. You are not alone, because I think the thing is, it's you know, weeks and weeks and weeks of not having much sense of normalcy to your life is what we're really over, right? We're over the interruption in our lives. So it's best that we identify what it is that we're really saying we're over, right?
Okay.
Yeah. And so we're over the interruption of life. But we're still trying, we got to still find a way though to separate that from the work and the thing that does bring us joy. So if you're still enjoying the work that you do, find ways to stay focused on the work and try to compartmentalize, if you can, the thing that you're over, right? The interruption. Accepting that the interruption, unfortunately, is still an ongoing process. We'll still have to work through it, right? We're not in control of it. However, how do I keep myself motivated with the work that I have to do? So maybe it's setting up, you know, a way to give yourself little milestones throughout your day. So maybe, you know, you give yourself a sticky note on a board, multiple sticky notes of what you're going to get done that day. And you pull that sticky note off your board every time you accomplish something. So you come away from your day feeling some sense of accomplishment.
Okay.
Using a journal, which you heard Zelda and I maybe talking about earlier, that I talked about on the last call that I had with you all, of how to, you know, plan out your day and having a visual to making some of those things happen for yourself in the course of your day. But you just gotta every day, right, find a way to give yourself some peace. So keep focused on the thing that brings you joy. A lot of self-care. That's the other thing, right? Finding what it is that you need that continues to nourish you, that helps you to get the energy to keep going.
Okay. Thank you.
What else?
Hi, it's Anne again. Francine and Karen, a lot of what you said also really tapped in to some of the things I've been thinking about as we're getting ready to, at some point, go back to work. You know, thinking about, and Lisa, maybe this is something to thinking about with COVID and with the crew, and everyone's going to be in a different mental state when they get back to work. Some people will be anxious to be around people. Some people will have lost loved ones. I know in my crew that I have, you know, someone currently right now who has multiple family members who are sick, because we've all been just keeping tabs. Francine, I've often thought a lot about what you're saying and having to be really clear, Karen, you know, about the expectations of producers, right? That things will not be how they are. And I guess, Lisa, maybe if there's, you know, a way to mold our leadership around the emotional state, I guess, that everyone's going to be in, you know, because everyone will be in a different place. There are the people who, like you said, are tired of it for XYZ reasons. And And I do know there probably will be a bit of trauma with some people that they'll have, whether it's just the anxiety of being back around people or people who actually lost people or the concern. So do you have any tips for good leadership, I guess, in an emotional climate?
Sure. So I've had probably at least 7 or 8 webinars that I've done over the last couple of months on psychological safety. We have, and really understandably, where people right now are not psychologically feeling safe for all of the reasons that you just said. And we have to understand that while it might have not affected us in a particular kind of way, we can't dismiss that it affects others differently. And taking a pause to really understand what folks might have been going through. We have a whole nother level of invested responsibility than some of these folks that we're talking about in some ways, right? Producers, directors, have a whole nother level of responsibility, and we get that. However, things can't be done and completed and move forward without people. And how you nourish and help them to get and stay on track is going to be critical to whether or not you're going to be successful in driving home whatever your goal is. So we have to take a pause and understand where people are and leading them from their point, from where they stand today. We can't expect for them to just show back up at work tomorrow as if nothing happened. Oh, something's happened, right? People have been probably grieving, have been going through those 5 steps of grief. Even if nobody died, right? Life has changed significantly. There's this defining moment that has made things different for people. And we've got to recognize that.
Yeah, for sure. I started seeing some of that happening right before we were shut down, just my different crew members all kind of reacting a little differently. And I tried to be very proactive in the beginning of making sure that they felt safe and they had whatever safety measures that they wanted. We shut down like around, I think, March 13th. But yeah, you're right. I think even people who haven't lost people, everyone's going through a grieving process.
Yeah, loss of work, right?
Mm-hmm. Loss of their way of life.
Yeah, social contact with people.
Yeah.
So just being able to be about your life and being outside and going about the things that you do normally has been, put on pause and taken away from you.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, we have to recognize that, we have to lead people from the position where they are today, where they are in this moment. Mm-hmm. Well, we are almost out of time. I always like to let you all know how to get in contact with me. If you ever, and you all probably heard me say that I have a vested interest in the Guild. My daughter is also in the Guild. Thank you very much for welcoming her. Her name is Lisa Holmes. And I have an interest in always being of service to you all. So if there is anything that I can do for you, here's how to reach me. My door is open. I'm always open to come back and speak on any topic that you all might want to hear about. So I am at your service.
So I just wanted to say that I thank you for the classes and, like IV and everything, because I definitely have polished my skills and I'm ready to go. I have a new iPhone 11 Pro and this and that. And it's all, and I think it's just awesome that we can share with each other and get empowered, actually. So thank you.
I love it. I'm glad to be of assistance. So if I can serve in any way, you all let me know. I'm always open to come back and talk to you.
Lisa, thank you so much for coming on this Saturday and coming in. And I'm sure you and I will talk soon about upcoming classes for our membership. But thanks everybody for coming and listening to Lisa. I hope it was inspiring, as every time I listen to her, it makes me feel a lot better and in this crazy world. So anyway, if anyone else doesn't have any other questions, you guys can enjoy the rest of your Saturday and your weekend, and we'll see you guys soon on some other classes.
Take care. Have a good
All right.
Saturday.
Thanks, Lisa. Bye, everyone.
Bye.